Louisa's hands trembled slightly as the words, "death sentence," echoed through the silent courtroom. No one spoke. No one moved. A hero, now a convict. Her fate was sealed. But what Thor did next would shake the very foundations of justice. Luísa Souza was no ordinary police officer. She worked some of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the state, and always by her side was her partner, Thor. He wasn't just her K-9 companion. He was family. The prosecution claimed she had entered a home without a warrant, pursued an unarmed suspect, and shot him in cold blood. Her defense had been left with nothing. Crucial footage had vanished. Bodycam data was corrupted. Witnesses had mysteriously disappeared. Worst of all, Luísa refused to point a finger at anyone else, unwilling to throw another soul to the wolves just to save her own skin. Outside the courthouse, protests had erupted. Half the city still believed in her innocence. The other half demanded retribution. The jury, however, did not deliberate long. The verdict was guilty. The sentence: death. A suffocating weight settled over the room, as if the air itself had turned to poison. Luísa barely blinked. But in the back of the courtroom, unnoticed by most, sat Thor. His ears shot up, his entire body went rigid. It was as if he understood exactly what had just happened. A low, mournful whine escaped him, a sound that cut through the silence more sharply than any shout ever could. That night, Luísa was taken away. No goodbyes, no explanations, just harsh lights and cold steel bars. Thor was torn from her side, leashed, and led to the police kennel. What no one realized was that a plan, one no one would have believed possible, was already taking shape in his mind. At the kennel, Thor was a different animal. He refused to eat for days. He ignored the handler's commands, even the simple ones he once obeyed without hesitation. This wasn't just sadness. It was grief. Every time someone passed the kennel door, he would stand motionless, his eyes fixed, waiting for a person who never came. The trainers tried everything: toys, treats, even reintroducing him to other K-9s he had trained with. But Thor remained in the corner of his cage, his muzzle pressed to the cold floor, as if the world had ceased to exist. One evening, when a handler tried to move him, Thor let out a low growl, not of anger but of defiance. It was as if to say, "I am not going anywhere until she comes back." The staff gave up trying to retrain him. He was classified as emotionally unstable, unfit for service. They considered early retirement or rehoming, but it was useless. Thor rejected every potential adopter, either growling or ignoring them completely. He didn't want a new home. He wanted his partner. An older, experienced handler, who had worked with K-9s for decades, looked at Thor with sorrowful eyes. "I've never seen loyalty like this," he murmured. "It's like he's waiting for something, or someone." A few days earlier, a young handler had forgotten to properly latch the main kennel gate. Thor hadn't moved then. But tonight, he did. He slipped through the unsecured gate, knocking over a container of food on his way out. Before anyone even noticed he was gone, Thor was through the main door and into the night. They searched for hours. Officers scoured the perimeter, but there was no sign of the German Shepherd. What they failed to understand was that Thor wasn't lost. He had a destination burned into his mind: the courthouse, the last place he had seen Luísa. And more than that, he knew the path from the courthouse to the state penitentiary. His K-9 training had etched every landmark into his memory. The roots of a particular tree, the layout of a building, the patrol schedule of the guards. This was no random escape. This was a rescue mission in progress. Inside the penitentiary, Luísa sat alone in a dimly lit cell. The trial was over, the sentence confirmed, the appeal denied. Tomorrow was her execution day. She stared at the concrete floor, her gaze empty, her spirit broken. Then she heard it. A bark. At first, she thought she was imagining things, but the sound grew louder, more desperate. "Thor," she whispered, rising from the metal cot. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Guards ran down the hall toward the west wing. Shouts echoed through the corridors. "There's a dog in here! How did it get in?" Before Luísa could process what was happening, a furry shape slid to a halt in front of her cell door. It was Thor, his coat soaked, his eyes locked on hers. He whimpered, pressing himself against the bars. Tears streamed down Luísa's face. "Thor, you came." Something inside her ignited, a flicker of hope she thought was long extinguished. The guards arrived seconds later, weapons drawn, but they hesitated. This was not just a stray dog. This was loyalty in its purest form, and for the first time in weeks, someone in a position of power that looked at this scene and wondered if Luísa Souza truly deserved to be behind those bars. The warden, a man hardened by years on the job, appeared in the corridor, flanked by two armed guards. His eyes fell first on Luísa, then on Thor. The dog's presence had electrified the entire cell block. "What is the meaning of this?" the warden demanded, his voice firm but laced with a sliver of disbelief. Luísa stood, trembling but resolute, as Thor positioned himself in front of her, a low growl rumbling in his chest. His posture said everything. This wasn't just a dog. He was a partner, a symbol of a bond that transcended prison walls. The warden narrowed his eyes. "Are you telling me this dog came for you?" Luísa swallowed hard and nodded slowly. "Yes. He has never left my side. Not once. He is my family." A heavy silence fell. The warden hesitated, the rigid lines of his face softening as he witnessed Thor's unwavering devotion. Could the dog truly understand the situation? Could he sense Luísa's despair? The air grew thick with tension. Thor took another step forward, bracing himself as if ready to challenge anyone who dared to take Luísa from him. The guards froze, unnerved. A seed of doubt had been planted. The warden stared, a mixture of disbelief and uncertainty warring within him. Was this animal a threat? Or was he witnessing something far more profound than he could comprehend? Weeks later, the unthinkable happened. Spurred by Thor's dramatic infiltration, a moment captured on a security camera and gone viral, new evidence came to light. An anonymous whistleblower revealed that a department official had falsified reports and manipulated the evidence against Luísa. She had been framed, and somehow Thor had sensed the truth all along. The courtroom was tense as the judge announced the final verdict. "All charges have been dismissed. Luísa Souza, you are free to go." Tears welled in Luísa's eyes as she looked down at Thor, who sat loyally beside her, his old K-9 badge once again hanging from his collar. The entire room was silent, filled with awe. The same dog once deemed a threat had become a symbol of justice, loyalty, and hope. As Luísa walked out of the courthouse, a free woman, reporters swarmed her. She said little, simply kneeling beside Thor and whispering, "You saved me. I will never forget this." In the days that followed, Luísa and Thor started a new life in a small, quiet town. She opened a training center to help dogs with behavioral issues, specializing in former police K-9s like Thor. And as for Thor, he never left her side again.